4 hours. 4 hours. That's the elapsed time between a distress signal off the coast of Oman and an $18 billion swing in global oil futures. 2 tankers on fire in the Gulf of Oman. No war declared, no blockade announced. Just smoke on the water. And Brent crude up over $2 a barrel before the London market opened. $2 times 100 million barrels of daily global consumption. Do that math. That's the price of a threat, not an action. A threat. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. Through it flows roughly 21 million barrels of oil every single day, 20% of all petroleum traded on Earth. But here's what every other documentary gets wrong about this place. It is not a geography story. It is not even an oil story. It is an insurance story, a war finance story. A story about who gets to levy a silent tax on every barrel of oil consumed by every economy on Earth, and what happens when someone decides to stop collecting. This is Straight Lines. Today, we're pricing the most expensive 21 miles on the planet. To understand Hormuz, you have to understand the financial architecture it replaced. Before 1973, global oil markets ran on a colonial pricing model. The Seven Sisters, the major Western oil companies, set the price. Producing nations received a royalty, a minority share of their own ground. Then came the 1973 embargo, OPEC, and a fundamental restructuring of who holds leverage over the energy market. But here's the piece that most analysis misses. When OPEC nationalized production, they redistributed equity. What they didn't control was the exit. The physical choke point became the new lever of power. You don't need to own every oil well if you control the only door. Iran understood this first. The strait sits between Iran to the north and Oman, and the UAE to the south. At the Coin Islands, the pinch point, commercial vessels navigate inbound and outbound traffic lanes, each barely 2 miles wide. 17 to 21 laden tankers transit in each direction every day. Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE petroleum, Qatari liquefied natural gas, Iraqi exports, Bahraini products. The combined GDP of the 6 Gulf Cooperation Council states is approximately $2.2 trillion. Nearly every dollar of it depends on unobstructed passage through this strait. Iran's GDP, roughly $400 billion. Iran's leverage, over $2.2 trillion of neighboring wealth. Absolute. That asymmetry is the story. Iran has never closed Hormuz. Let's be precise about that. What Iran has done, repeatedly, strategically, and at carefully calibrated intervals, is demonstrate that it can. 1987, the tanker war. Iranian mines and gunboat attacks on commercial shipping in the Persian Gulf drove war risk insurance premiums from 0.05% of cargo value to over 5%, a 100-fold increase in under 18 months. The Lloyd's of London market was repricing every barrel of Gulf oil in real time. Underwriters who'd written policies at peacetime rates were suddenly sitting on catastrophic exposure. The United States responded with Operation Earnest Will, the largest naval convoy operation since World War II. 11 Kuwaiti tankers reflagged as American vessels. The U.S. Navy physically escorting commercial shipping through a waterway it had no formal treaty obligation to protect. That's the hidden subsidy that never appears in oil pricing models. The U.S. Fifth Fleet has been based in Bahrain since 1995. Annual operating cost, roughly $1 billion. That $1 billion does not appear in the price of Saudi crude. It's in the U.S. defense budget. A permanent taxpayer-funded subsidy paid by Americans to keep Gulf oil cheap for global markets. Every economist who models Hormuz oil pricing without that number is working with incomplete data. Let's price an actual closure. IMF modeling and independent energy economics shops broadly agree on the range. A sustained Hormuz closure sends Brent crude to somewhere between $150 and $250 a barrel within 30 days. Some scenarios go higher. At $200 oil, global GDP contracts by an estimated 2 to 3%. That's $2 to $3 trillion in economic output, not transferred, destroyed. The alternative routing is the Cape of Good Hope, a laden tanker leaving the UAE and diverting around the southern tip of Africa adds 15 to 18 days of transit time and $3 to $4 million in additional fuel and operating costs per voyage. Scale that. 17 to 21 diversions per day, sustained for months. Additional shipping costs in the hundreds of millions monthly, flowing directly into the price of every manufactured good touching petrochemicals. But the crude price is only the visible damage. The invisible damage runs through trade finance. Letters of credit for commodity shipments transiting Hormuz are priced against war risk insurance premiums. When those premiums spike, as they did in 2019, again in 2020, and during the H,